Chapter 4. New Age. Experiences arising from outside the visible world began to speak to me more and more. I remembered my father's and mother's tales of unexplained visions. Sometimes my mother saw them, sometimes my dad, sometimes both, and in some cases other villagers too. They had sounded unbelievable in the ears of a small girl despite the assurances of those who had seen them. And even if one did believe in them, they felt so distant, things that only happened to others, not me. I attended certain events and festivities in the Lutheran church with my husband. It occurred to me to visit this church more and to see how it would affect my life. After all, the church was only a few hundred meters from our home, and I didn't need to drive nearly 100 kilometers to the city of Joensuu to the Catholic church. I asked the Lutheran priest whether I could take communion in their church, even though I'm not Lutheran. He agreed to it, and so I started attending regularly. Various programs appeared on TV where psychics and fortune tellers predicted the future and gave solutions to all kinds of life situations. These programs became my favorites. I often phoned in and requested my fortune because my own fortune telling didn't suffice. I deemed the people telling fortunes on TV to be genuine experts in the field. These things interested me to the point where I employed the internet to aid me further. A new, amazing, and wonderful world opened before me: beings of light, angels, the Reiki, meditation, yoga, and so on. Life on this earth began to feel boring and old fashioned compared to this new spiritual life. Now I had found something that supported and explained the supernatural experiences I had had. I also found out about a Reiki therapist in Poland who was well spoken of. She had supernatural powers to heal using energies. I booked a trip to Poland and was soon on my way. Anna, name has been changed, lived in Zakopane and she received clients there. I was excited because Zakopane was a dear holiday destination for me. Almost every time I visited my childhood home, I made a point of visiting the Zakopane Mountains. Something always drew me there. I suggested to my parents that they take a couple of days holiday there with me. At the same time, they could also try some Reiki therapy, seeing as both of them had health issues. They agreed, and I booked us appointments with Anna. We started on our way, and I was excited to see what kind of wonderful supernatural world I could show my parents. Our hotel was near the Reiki therapist's clinic, and we were soon knocking on her door. The woman's appearance seemed angelic. She seemed to be full of love, like some kind of light glowed through her being. After the therapies, we all sat down to have a chat. To my great astonishment, she praised my aura full of light that she saw around me. There seemed to be a presence, some strange power and energy in the room. Now I was really excited. The certificates hanging on the clinic walls made it clear this woman was deeply involved in Eastern medicine and well accomplished in it. A blend of pictures of angels and saints and other objects decked the walls of the clinic in complete harmony. A light shines from you, Renata. Your aura is beautiful and pure, Anna complimented me. I have been trained by the best teachers, masters in Tibet, she went on, and I have met many different people in many other places, and I can see great possibilities for you to go further in this field, as far as you like. Read a book that will help you take a first step and get acquainted with the field. The book is called I Am. She gave me the name and address of the author so I could order the book. My parents and I thanked this wonderful therapist and went back to our hotel. Would you have it in you to go up to Gobalovka with me? I asked my parents. Do you feel any better? Yes, my father replied. Yes, let's go, my parents said. We don't come this far often, and it would be a really nice holiday too. Just me and my parents. We would spend a nice couple of days enjoying the beautiful scenery in Zakopane. We went walking in the Krupovki promenade, stopping at market stalls. There were all kinds of souvenirs on sale, mostly locally made wood and leather handicrafts. We bought some tourist souvenirs and my father went to haggling with the sellers. He enjoyed doing that, having learned it in America. Tourists flowed in both directions along the street, and we heard many different languages being spoken as people passed by. We got into a cable car and began the rise towards Mount Gubalovka. The wondrous scenery spread out around us as we looked out the window. When we got to the top, we stopped to sit at a viewing point in front of a restaurant and took in the Grand Peak of Yevant. A cross had been set up at its highest point. It's so wonderful to be here. I've loved this place. Here I can recharge so that I can keep going. These words poured out of me to my parents as we sat in a horse-drawn carriage driven by a mountain man along the narrow path that traverses the Kupalovka mountainside. Well, this is where you were conceived, my mother retorted, so it's no wonder you feel drawn to here. I turned to look at my mother in wonderment because this was the first time I had heard this. Yes, my mother went on, this is where your father and I had our honeymoon, and it must have happened on that mountainside there. I was totally surprised by my mother's comments, and I cast an eye at my father. He gave a sheepish hum and said, I suppose that's the way it was. Well, now I understand my interest in these rocky mountains and hills, I continued to say. The horse-drawn carriage took us to the chairlift, and we came back down admiring the beautiful scenery from above. Another horse-drawn carriage took us back to Zakopane Center from the chairlift. Our mini holiday in Zakopane was a unique experience. I got to spend time with my parents in the place I had been conceived, and I enjoyed their company in my favorite holiday spot. My holiday in Poland was drawing to an end, and I was excited to see whether the book I had ordered would arrive in the post before I left for Finland. I waited for the package every day. When I had packed my things in the car and said goodbye, we were about to leave for the airport. I'll send it to you in the post, my mother said. And just then the postman brought me the book I had been waiting for. I started reading the book at the airport while waiting for my flight. I was immensely interested in finding out what I had in me and how this book could help me to sort out the new things in my life. The book took the reader into its inward parts in a strange way. The transcendental being of humans and its diversity spoke to my thirsty and truth-speaking heart to the extent that I was completely mesmerized by the world the book spoke about, right from its first pages. So it is, I frequently thought to myself. It's amazing what a human has within them, which we have no knowledge of. But I was going to find out and do all that I could to reach the highest level of vibration of enlightenment. I will become a transcendental human. I will become the godlike being that has been imprisoned within me and has not been able to come out to its full flower and the power that it should have. I was, after all, different to all the people around me. I must have lived several times on earth and my karma had been paid. I had been released from the cycle of karma. Now, in this life, I can reach nirvana. I will be a master and I will no longer need to be born again to this earth to suffer. What had I been before? A rat? A horse? A flower? And how many human incarnations had I lived? I can only remember being Cleopatra. I ordered many books on the subject and studied them. Master Saint Germain was my favorite. I read about the secret knowledge of alchemy for the skill of channeling, so that I could communicate with the higher beings of light and with the masters that live invisibly in the higher levels. Mostly, the exercises concentrated on the principles of the universe, i.e., those of universal life, love, power, and wisdom. I wanted to learn all about the real being of a human, the I am being. But this goal cannot be attained by living life the way I had done so far. Many things had to change. I needed a lot of peace to practice meditation and yoga. Practicing mantras required settling down to it. Yet everything seemed to fall into place as if of its own accord. At the time, my husband and I were just the two of us, since my mother-in-law had died the previous year and my father-in-law was in a care home. Jarmo worked long hours away from home, and I tried to take care of my responsibilities as quickly as possible so that I could get back to my exercises. Even on a night shift, I tried to find a quiet place to wait for my next client, and I often meditated in the car and read New Age materials. There was a computer at the taxi station, and that was also a door into my new world. Pub life began to be a thing of the past. I had been there and had not found what I was looking for. The meditation and yoga brought new supernatural experiences for me that felt much better than a drunk, fun party night had to offer. Driving an outside force and energy into me was somewhat familiar from my time in karate. This, however, employed many other sources of energy, and that was why I meditated outdoors in nature a lot, absorbing energies from all around me. I would sit on a high rock in lotus position, meditating using the Om mantra, and sometimes listening to nature sounds like waves licking on the shore. I meditated on rooting into Mother Earth, Gaia, and channeled energies from its depths. After all, I was one with it as I was with all of my surroundings and the universe. Hugging trees, looking straight at the sun without sunglasses, and admiring the moon and the stars are also sources of energy in the New Age. It's also important to learn to recognize and beware of energy thieves, like people who live like parasites, stealing the good energy from other people. New Age is a combination of all kinds of beliefs and myths, most of which come from Hinduism and Buddhism. But hippie culture is also connected with its moral freedoms and endeavors to fulfill all desires and lusts. Some practices of Christianity are also included. New Age makes it possible for the individual to have the right to freely practice anything that drives lack of inhibition and the rights of godlike beings. It is a self suggestive form of life, and it's about shaping one's life into whatever one wants to be. It includes astral travel, which means dissociation from one's body and visiting different galaxies and anywhere in the universe. My life encompassed a change in diet, meaning vegetarianism, and fasts that helped cleanse me. Cleansing the body is very important because a clogged body cannot receive enough energy and cannot sense the living beings of light in higher vibration levels. It is also needful to live a good life, loving everyone and everything without bounds. The energy of love has to always overflow outwards from inside the person and then back in again, like a cyclic field of energy that touches all around you. The New Age music, like crystal and brass bowls that resonate different sounds, help you to tune into meditation. If one doesn't have these instruments, there are ready made videos available online for meditating the Om or some other mantra with a suitable resonance. I searched for different kinds of mountain crystals and special stones and acquired many. I placed the stones in our home, especially our bedroom, which was now downstairs. We had switched our living space from upstairs to downstairs. The bedroom was where I meditated the most because it was big and spacious, and the soft rug in the middle of the room was good for many yoga exercises. According to the instructions, crystals have strong energy fields, so I had placed them in close arrangements around the room in order to radiate their energy towards me during meditation and yoga. I searched for people like me online and found them. I trusted Wanda the most. Her name has been changed. She had her own website. She had been in New Age for much longer than me and gone far. She had acquired much knowledge and experience. Wanda wrote and taught about esotericism and all kinds of experiences with the supernatural. She also shares all kinds of materials related to New Age. Jesus and other familiar saints were strongly present in her teaching in complete harmony with Eastern gods and masters. Wanda, like New Age in general, saw that all of these people are among those who have attained the highest spiritual level of consciousness. Jesus is often represented as a master who had already achieved godliness. He was a master of the highest caste who was also known as Maitreya. Wanda described him as the Rose of Sharon, and that flower symbolized Jesus' love for us. Jesus wants to show in this way how special we are to him. The mystical rose is considered to be the flower with the highest resonance, emanating masculine resonance energy, whilst the lily emanates the feminine. The chakra is described esoterically as a lotus flower that is closed. But when a consciousness of Christ descends upon a person, they can attain the highest levels of activity. That is why someone who climbs the way of Christ consciousness begins to manifest their own energy centers, i.e., chakras, on a higher level. Their chakras begin to resemble roses, and that's why their aura begins to shine strongly, clearly displaying perfect flowers of the body. Wanda thinks that the rose symbolizes the perfection of holiness, absolute love. Jesus Christ, born of the Virgin Mary, was a miracle walking the earth in Wanda's mind. Blessed are they who got to see him and to touch and listen to his voice and pray with him. His prayer rose like the wind and opened God's heart. Jesus, you came to earth like a great healer to heal those who were physically and spiritually ill. The rose and its well-known scent and healing properties inspire us to compare Jesus Christ to the Rose of Sharon. The red rose is a spiritual symbol of healing and represents the new birth of the soul, the resurrection. Jesus told us, "Come here and see what God has prepared for you." Wanda continues writing on her front page. Jesus increases our faith and gives people strength to get through every bad day and not fall, but keep going. The end times are coming. We are near to Jesus. He strengthens those who are like him for 38 years so that they would be ready to enter the kingdom of God. Only one who has been bathed in fire is ready to lead others to the throne of grace. How heavy is the way for seeking God. Prayer aids in the search. It gives strength and raises the person above the obstacles. Prayer ignites a great flame in seekers and gives them wings and lets them stand abreast with Jesus. Following Jesus means that one must live according to his words. Isaiah 53:6 says, "All we had gone astray like sheep, each their own way, but the Lord placed our debt of sin on him." Jesus, the Rose of Sharon, you place health and hope inside people. How hard it is to follow you and to persevere in prayer. Isaiah 53:10. The Lord saw fit to bruise him, to strike him with suffering. If you place his soul as a sin offering, he can see descendants and live long, and the will of the Lord will be done through him. Wanda's pages also contain different yoga and meditation options for spiritual exercise. I felt like I was really awakening now. I started to see amazing visions of beautiful, wonderfully colored flowers and scenery. I read quotes of Wanda's experiences of a new life that completely resembled the experiences I was beginning to have. Life was full of living pictures. Changes began to happen in my body also. The dense material of my body began to transform into porous and sensitive matter. The spiritual sparks of my body kept igniting ever greater lights, and my body changed into an energetic area. I began to learn more about my own secret mystical areas. I felt like I was coming out of a labyrinth, and I followed new processes every day, cleansing and rooting into a new spiritual reality. I felt like new worlds had descended inside me, awakening my deeper being. We had much in common with Wanda, and I told her of my own experiences in her comments section. There were many other tales from other people about different supernatural experiences. The Kundalini snake began to waken. According to Wikipedia, the Kundalini is Sanskrit and means twisted. It's a term that is found in various yoga traditions meaning finely structured, i.e., a non physical life power connected with a body of energy. Energy fields that have been awakened are often described as a snake that, upon awakening, forms the first chakra and rises along the energy centers in the backbone, i.e., chakras. There are 7 of these. The opening of the 7th or crown chakra is the state that all those practicing a spiritual life reach for. It is the attainment of nirvana, becoming one with the universe, attaining higher levels, and a door to the wonderful invisible world. My new world was fascinating, mystic, and mysterious. My friend Gunta, who I had met in belly dancing class, also became interested in my practices, and we began to meditate and spend much time together. We would go jogging, for example. Gunta already had some experience of Reiki therapy because she had sought help for her own issues. She had also visited India, where she had got to know and been captivated by the mysterious world of Hinduism. Hindu gods in beautiful Indian temples made a lasting impression on her. Now we sat together nearly every day in candlelight, on the floor in a lotus position, repeating the Om mantra and enjoying the energy and peace of the mysterious power and the good feeling we got. One time, when I was meditating, I felt the energy rising and opening the last chakras. I had been practicing meditation for a few years. A strong energy rising from the tailbone felt like a snake was squirming up my spine, bringing with it strange feelings and visions. For a moment, I felt like I floated above the floor. The feeling overwhelmed me, and a great power seemed to come from inside me. I saw bright flashes of light and a violet flame like I had been on fire. Other bright colors also swooped in from somewhere. I was inside them. They were inside me. I smelled unknown scents and heard quiet music that couldn't be heard with physical ears. I saw some kind of figures and felt someone's presence. It was someone who was very close to me, even though I couldn't see him. I had changed. Something great had happened in me, and I felt the energies flowing continually through me and giving me supernatural powers. Someone began to communicate with me, someone from the invisible world. Sometimes I felt I was one with him. Sometimes he was close and sometimes further away, but I was the object of his attention. He became my spiritual guide, a guide from another dimension. He was a master who taught and guided me in life in the highest levels. There were people in my circle of friends who were interested in shamanism, Reiki, and angels. We often spoke of these things, and they even asked me to join their courses. But I didn't feel the need to go because my guide taught me everything I needed to know. My guide told me that I already had the skill and energy required to carry out Reiki therapy. I knew it myself too because I felt strong hot waves flowing from my hands. I carried out these Reiki and energy therapies at home, and anywhere people were willing to receive them. A few other people requested Reiki therapy, but mostly I treated relatives. People clearly felt that they got relief from pain and had various things and experiences with light. My power grew, and visits to the invisible world became commonplace. I felt that the Pleiades constellation was my true home, where I will get to go permanently with my body that is constantly becoming increasingly energized without needing to die. I will just suddenly disappear from this world and transfer into a new, better life as an enlightened, godlike being. Some of my friends became interested in my practices, and I began to teach my own group in yoga. I taught a small group of about 10 women the secrets of meditation, but mostly I continued to meditate with Gunta, whom I told things that others wouldn't be able to understand. My cosmic guide guided me online as well. One day he showed me a website where he himself gave teaching. At first I didn't understand, but I watched a well-made video with a male figure in a light brown jacket resembling a uniform. The shoulder pads had relatively large buttons, and the same buttons were set in a vertical column on a short jacket down to the waist. Everything but the speaker's face was shown. The face was covered by a mandala, which is an Eastern-style picture that resembles a skillfully and densely crocheted doily. The edges of the mandala were framed by dark, wavy hair down to the shoulders. The figure spoke with a pleasant male voice, explaining amazing things about supernatural life. Sometimes he showed takes from videos relating to his teaching, where he was in the picture without showing his face. Only the figure of a slim, well-built young man could be seen. The videos had been shot on Earth, in space, and in places where the scenery didn't resemble those on Earth. The videos contained footage of the past on Earth, not with the people resembling monkeys, but exactly the same kind of people as today, except with different clothes. There were videos about the present and the future, UFOs and light beings in strange clothes, and people and conspiracies and humanoids. A music that seemed to come from space played in the background. Everything was so fascinating. Sometimes my guide took me to places online that he used for sending me music and virtual flowers. The most amazing thing was that I began to recognize the figure in the videos as being the same person as my guide who had been with me all the time. As I watched the videos, I felt his presence as if he was hugging me. And with time, I began to feel the love energy that he had for me, which was innocent hugging and caressing to begin with. Later, there were the first kisses, and we began to have a sexual relationship. I fell in love with him. In a sensitive moment, I asked him something about himself, like, "Who are you and what's your name?" He showed me a picture online where an angel resembling him stood with his wings open beside a beautiful woman. The angel had similar hair and habitus as my guide, but in this picture, a very handsome face was visible. The topless picture revealed a muscular upper body. The angel looked at the beautiful woman with an expression of being in love. She wore a medieval dress and hairdo. The woman seemed to also be in love with the angel because that's what her face and whole demeanor expressed. I wondered at the picture and asked him, "Is this you in this picture?" "Yes," my guide replied. Later I found out that the girl in the picture was me in a previous life. I spent a lot of time with my angel. One evening on the job, I was driving and daydreaming of the wonderful moments with my angel, and I felt his love. Then I felt compelled to look at the sky through the car window. It was dark and the stars shone. To my great surprise, I noticed two stars moving in the same direction with me, speeding along the black sky. A great joy arose in my heart, and I became conscious that my beloved was guarding me always wherever I went. The other star remained close by him, but not right beside him. I received an answer that that was his bodyguard. From then on, those two stars followed me every move wherever I drove in the dark. There also came a time when my angel told me his name was Michael. At that time, I continued to go to church and say my evening prayer. I began to have strange dreams where men in dark suits chased me. One of these dreams was the strangest and the scariest. I had been kidnapped and was being tortured by men in black clothes in an underground space under a cemetery. They demanded I totally let go of my God. I didn't answer them anything because I had decided that I would never give up my God. I sat in the torture chair with no clothes on and all bloody. The pain came to the point where I started to pray the Lord's Prayer with what strength I had left, and then I passed out from the pain. Next, I saw myself waking up in a ditch and walking through the gates of the cemetery with no clothes on. I cried for help, but no one could see or hear me. I woke up and was terrified. I thought about what that meant, but with time I forgot the dream and life went on. Then came the teaching where my guide taught me about Jesus. He taught me about how Jesus grew up like all other boys and fell in love with Mary Magdalene. The whole story was completely different to anything I had heard about Jesus my whole life. There was no way I could believe it was true. No, it couldn't be. The whole thing bothered me and it didn't leave me in peace. Something started churning inside me. My angel continued to be very gentle towards me and promised me to come and pick me up soon. I would get to join God's army that he was the commander of. This message consoled me much because I had daydreamed about it. A little more schooling, and I would be ready to move to a completely new, wonderful life with God in his army in heaven. I sat on the floor in a lotus position and practiced meditation as I had always done. My angel began to speak to me and asked me to be his wife. I was surprised but gladly agreed because I loved him so much and felt his great love towards me. Next, I was somewhere outside the earth and inside a castle or some such great building. I sat in large chairs like thrones with my beloved. I was dressed in fine clothes. I wore a long dress that reached down the steps in front of the thrones. It wasn't white, it was more like a silvery gray. The groom also had a fine glowing dress that was almost the same color. I looked around me, and there seemed to be a large army around us, standing in strict order according to their regiments. The regiments were in full gear from the helmets down. There were so many that I couldn't see the end of them, all wearing grey military gear. I didn't keep looking at them though, because Michael took my hand and placed a ring on my finger. I felt so happy and bewildered. At the same moment, I heard loud bangs and looked towards the troops. All the angels who were there celebrating the ceremony struck a beat with the sword they were holding with hands covered in armored gloves. It made an overwhelming sound of applause. I was like the princess in the story whose dream of a prince had come true. The ring was not visible in normal life, even though I could feel it. In meditation, I could see it.